We're back as Vice President Harris wraps up a massive week of engagement in swing states like Michigan. What does her momentum mean for Senate Democrats facing tough races and for Democrats' overall goal of keeping the Senate in November? Joining me now is Senator Gary Peters, Democrat of Michigan. He is the chair of the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee. Senator, thank you for joining us again. After polls showed President Biden trailing Donald Trump in Michigan before he exited the race, Kamala Harris appears to have at least closed the gap exactly 3 weeks in. The latest New York Times Siena poll of swing states showing her ahead of Donald Trump in Michigan, 50% to 46% within the margin of error. You've endorsed the vice president soon after she entered the 2024 race. She and Governor Walz were in Detroit this week as part of this week's last week's tour around those battleground states. How would you characterize their reception in Michigan, Senator?
Well, thank you, Reverend Sharpton, for having me on. I would capture it as an incredible, strong outpouring of support. People all across the state of Michigan, Democrats in particular, are very engaged in this campaign. We're seeing volunteers sign up at a rate we simply did not see. In fact, for our one campaign, which is our ground campaign to make sure we turn out our voters on Election Day, we had been recruiting folks for about a year and a half, but after Vice President Harris announced that she was running, within that first week alone, we doubled the number of volunteers that had signed up to get out and to canvass. I've been at some of those canvass kickoffs. I'm seeing more young people than I've seen in the recent past. In fact, one of the recent ones I was at, many of the young people that were there said this is the first time that they'd ever volunteered on a campaign, but they feel that it's important to get out. They want to make sure that she gets elected. So the enthusiasm is there, but we've got to keep that enthusiasm all the way through the election, as you know. We're still 80-plus days away. You can't take anything for granted. This is going to be a battleground. Michigan is, by definition, a battleground state, which means it's going to be a close election. And that means who can turn out our voters, who can maintain that enthusiasm, knock doors and get people out. That's going to make the difference.
Yeah, and I've also heard from people like Reverend Charles Williams, our NAN state chair, saying he's seeing a lot of young people enthused in Michigan. But staying with this past week's swing state tour, this week President Biden will campaign with the vice president for the first time since he left the race. The White House saying the two will appear in Maryland together. Biden said today that he'd also campaign for Harris in Pennsylvania and other swing states soon. How do you think voters will respond to seeing the two of them together campaigning for the first time?
Well, I think it's always important to have a president out campaigning, and he'll be in places in Maryland. I think that's very good for him to show up there. We want to make sure voters understand what is at stake. And when you look at our Senate races, you asked the question about our Senate races. You know, these are candidate-to-candidate races. We have very strong incumbents and Democratic candidates running against seriously flawed Republicans. It's about making that contrast, but it's also about making sure your base shows up and understands that there is a clear difference in this election. So the more people out there making that case, the better, the more urgency that is expressed. And that will allow us to run more robust campaigns. But we also have to keep up on the resource front. You know, the Republicans are going to pour in money primarily on negative, nasty ads. That's what they focus on, both against Vice President Harris and against our Senate candidates. And as you know, as well as anyone, we have to hold a majority in the Senate. When we elect Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States, she needs a Democratic majority in the Senate to move her agenda forward, to move judges forward, just members of her cabinet. And that's why our races are so key and why we need to raise the funds necessary, which is why defendthesenate.org is our website. People can contribute there, and they're going to know that those resources are going to go to those Senate races that are right on the bubble, that are absolutely essential for us to win, so we hold the majority, so that Kamala Harris can move the agenda forward that we all want her to move forward.
No, on that point, you wrote an op-ed for MSNBC.com recently, speaking as chair of the DSCC and expressing confidence that Democrats will hold on to their Senate majority, in large part because of what you say is inferior candidate quality on the other side. You also mentioned Democrats' midterm successes 2 years ago as a guidepost for 2024. Why do you think Democrats will hold on competitive Senate races in places like Montana, Ohio, and Arizona?
Well, certainly those are all very challenging places. Montana is a place where we know will vote overwhelmingly for Donald Trump. It always has. But we have a candidate there in Jon Tester who knows how to win in that state because he is as authentic as you can possibly imagine. He's many generations in Montana. People in Montana know they can trust him, that he always puts their interest first. He's running against a seriously flawed Republican candidate who kind of moved into Montana. He's not from Montana. He's a fake rancher. His business, it's really clear now with information that he's taking money out of his business and stiffing shareholders and bondholders, somebody that people simply can't trust. You've got Sherrod Brown in Ohio, who's also running against a flawed Republican candidate that clearly his long list of misinformation and lies is coming to the forefront. And Sherrod is a gentleman who has always been able to win in Ohio because people know they can trust, particularly his championing for working families and union families in particular. It's how they won in the past. It's how they're going to win again. But we can't take any of it for granted. We're going to have to be working right up to Election Day. You cannot stop running until you run through the tape in these races. But when we do that, we're going to win. And we need to win those states to make sure that we're at 50 senators with a vice president then casting the tie-breaking vote for us. But we still have also opportunities to pick up seats, both in Texas and in Florida. And I would certainly encourage your viewers to look at those races as well, or invest in our DSCC, our defendthesenate.org. We're constantly making those decisions as to where we put the resources, because the only metric that matters to me is that we have a majority in the Senate. We make sure that Kamala Harris gets elected president, and we can back her up in the Senate with a clear majority.
Now, Senator, your Republican colleague, J.D. Vance, a Marine Corps veteran, has spent the last week attacking Governor Tim Walz' 24-year military service record, claiming that Walz has been campaigning on stolen valor for retiring from the National Guard months before his unit was deploying to Iraq. You're a veteran, having served in the U.S. Navy Reserve for 15 years. What do you make of this particular attack from Senator Vance on Governor Walz?
Well, I think Senator Vance's attacks are outrageous, and they're terrible. And as you mentioned, I served in the U.S. Navy Reserve. I served with some of the bravest, most patriotic people you've ever had the privilege of getting to know. And there are people like Tim Walz, who spent 24 years in the National Guard. We should be celebrating that kind of service. You know, I celebrate anybody who's a veteran. J.D. Vance was in the Marines for 4 years. I celebrate his 4 years of service. But he should also then celebrate Tim Walz's 24 years of service to his country. That's something we should celebrate. And to attack that, I think, is despicable. It's really disqualifying in my mind. If you were going to run for high public office, you should be honoring our veterans. You should be honoring those who wear the uniform and are willing to go into harm's way to protect the freedoms and liberties that we enjoy in this country. And to level those kinds of attacks against someone, to me, is outrageous, and we should condemn it.
Michigan Senator Gary Peters, thank you for being with us.